We have another NHL trade to discuss, this time between division rivals the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. We'll get into all the details coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a trade, a fairly small trade, but could prove to be significant down the road between the Maple Leafs and the Panthers, are of course both battling for that playoff spot in the Atlantic Division, both really pushing hard for that number 3 spot or possibly a wildcard spot, depending on how the standings may fall here. But the Florida Panthers have traded forward Denis Malgin to the Maple Leafs in exchange for forward Mason Marchment. Now, Malgin has much more NHL experience than Marchment does. He was originally drafted by the Panthers a number of years back. He actually was teammates with Austin Matthews when Austin Matthews went over to play in Switzerland during his draft eligible season. Of course, Malgin's from Switzerland, was playing hockey over there with Zurich, and they were teammates, so quite familiar with each other on that front, so that'll help Malgin's transition over to Toronto. He's really primarily played a bottom 6 role with the Panthers, but he's done relatively well. He's got 184 games of NHL experience now over the past 3 or 4 seasons, and he's put up 60 points, so has a decent amount of skill for somebody who can play in a bottom 6 role. Of course, Mason Marchment, on the other hand, was an undrafted signing by the Leafs, son of former NHLer Brian Marchment. Has really struggled to become a consistent NHL player. Doesn't have a ton of games under his belt. He's got about 3 years of pro hockey at the American Hockey League level, but he's battled a lot of injuries as well, and that certainly has not helped his case to remain healthy and to try to work his way up to be a regular NHL player or more consistent AHL player either. We've seen the Leafs call him up recently on a couple of short stints, but hasn't been able to stick. Of course, he can play a little bit more of that physical style of game, something that the Leafs have been missing, to kind of experiment to see if he would be able to fill that void, but we're not totally pleased with what he was able to bring, so they went out and swapped him here for Malgin. So clearly not a big deal, but something that could prove significant down the road. Malgin's only making a $750K. He's a pending restricted free agent, so it's a cheap contract for the Leafs, who are up against the cap, as a controllable asset for a little while longer as well, and he could prove to be a pretty good bottom 6 guy. A little bit surprising in the way they made this move. They do have a bunch of other guys playing in their Marley system who I thought might get a crack already, guys that they had already brought in over the summer, like a Kenny Agostino, for example, but clearly they felt Malgin was a good fit, and he very well could be. I mean, small price to pay for this type of deal. So let me know what you think of this trade down below in the comments. A little bit surprising to see 2 teams battling for a playoff spot, doing a trade like this, but obviously nothing too significant. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll continue discussing it further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and stay tuned for plenty more coverage of the NHL Trade Deadline 2020. We'll cover all the NHL trades and trade rumors leading into the deadline coming up February 24th. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.